Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I would like to discuss a question that scares a lot of people and intimidates them, and that's the residence permit, the student visas and so on. So the documents that you need to get to fly here if you're not from Austria already, and the documents you need to stay here for a year as a student. So first of all, I would like to say that the people who work in the authorities who are responsible for your visa, they don't intentionally want to make your life difficult, or they are not scary people. They're usually very polite and helpful, as of my experience, and they just are there to do their job. So they go, they wake up, they probably have families, they work their shift and they come back home and have dinner and so on. So those people have no bad intentions towards you. They're not there to make your life super difficult, super complicated. They're just there to see if you kind of qualify by the legal grounds to study here in Vienna, and if you have the necessary means to do so. Like, do you have an insurance, a health insurance? If you get sick, do you have where to live, and do you have the money to live here for a year? That's it. That's all they need. And you can apply for the visas and residence permits by yourself, by just emailing or calling or researching a lot on the websites, or calling the Ministry of Education, for example, or also the Magistrat. You can call or email them. They answer if you do it by email within 2-3 working days. If you do by phone, they answer you immediately. If you call in the working hours. So yeah, there's nothing to be afraid of. So you can do it yourself. I did it myself and there was no problems. The only thing I had to consult an agency for is a special paper confirming that I'm going to study abroad, and I'm preparing for that process for my high school living exams, because I wanted to take them earlier to have the high school living certificate earlier. And one of the grounds to do that is that you're preparing to study abroad, so I had to get that document. And also I had to get a legal guardian, so legal guardianship. That's when you're not 18 yet and you're in Austria, and you need somebody who is kind of taking official responsibility for you. So that was the two cases I consulted somebody. But all in all, if you're over 18 and you have the high school diploma, it should be all fine. So you can either do it by yourself with a bit of more research and a bit more calling and emailing the authorities, or you can also ask. There's study agencies that do it for you and help you and kind of guide you. And I know a few good ones. You can text me or DM me on Instagram or here, and I will recommend you those people, and you can choose the one you like the best, because and I only kind of advise the trusted ones. So for example, I know those people personally, or know the owners of the companies personally, so you don't need to worry, because I know sometimes bad cases happen, unfortunately. I only kind of give advice on what I'm sure of. And so I would like to give you a bit of an overview of how it goes. And I'm not here to kind of go through the whole list, go through the whole legal checklist of the websites, of the residence permits. I'm here to give you an overview of how it works and what to expect. So I'm not a legal kind of advisor here. You can of course DM me and ask me, but I will tell you, as of my experience, I will not kind of guarantee you anything or like say, okay, this is for sure going to be like that for you. You never know. And one more thing I want to mention is that if somebody tells you that they kind of can influence the decision of the Magistrat, or they can influence a yes or no answer, they can't, because the only people who decide whether to let you in the country or not are the people working in the authorities of that country. You can email them or call them if you have a special case or you need a bit quicker for your studies because they're starting soon, or you have like exchange semester coming up or anything. You can email those authorities and ask them, and they will try to find a solution for you within the legal limits, because there's something they just can't do. They can't speed up certain processes. So no other party influences the answer yes or no. The party might help you, guide you, or make you kind of escape or avoid any little mistakes, but that's it. And in the worst case that you don't have something, you don't have like a document they need, they just ask you to send it by email. So that's it. So imagine you go to an embassy or to Magistrat and you don't have something, and they usually just ask you to email it to them. That's it. So they're not bad people. They're just, okay, you don't have this, so please email this to us in the span of, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Nothing to be scared of. Again, it's just a normal process, just bureaucracy. It is what it is. And so let's start. So the only problem you might have with the authorities is not on their side usually. It's usually because you don't have a certain document. Let's say if you don't have a contract with the dorm when you're applying, it's not them making your life difficult. It's you just not having the right paper they need just to check like basic stuff. So yeah. So try to prepare as many documents as you can in advance, because for example, some of them, like maybe the translation of them or the legalization, like the apostille of them, will take time. And just so you kind of aware of the legal deadlines, and maybe there's also a paper called, I'm not sure how it translates to, like what's in German, but there's like a paper stating that you have no criminal record, and it can take up to, I think, 45 days to do. It depends on where you go, but usually the legal limit is 45 days, as what I know. So just to be aware that some documents may take a month to be born. So yeah, so do a checklist of everything you need, and then go with it. For example, I think in your first application, when you apply for the first time for the visa and residence permit, when you're just starting your studies, you need your birth certificate translated and also legalized, and it also takes time. So if you have a document because you have your birth certificate, who doesn't, you have it on your hands. So please, if you know you're going to study abroad, no matter where, if you don't know yet if you're accepted or not to certain universities, just please do it so you have it on your hands. So how the procedure goes, it's different for EU and non-EU students, because EU students can just come here and stay up to a certain amount without doing much, and they just then kind of change their residence, they put their new address, and they also apply for like a special type of thing of permit, but that's it. They don't need much. They can come here anytime they want to travel. So to start their studies, they might not necessarily need the visa. They can just like start it and be in the process of doing it. For non-EU students, it's a bit difficult, because to come to Austria, you do need like a special type of visa, like maybe a Schengen visa or a student visa. And the process goes, it's like a two-stage process. So first you find an embassy of Austria in your country. Usually it's in the capitals, like in the capital of your country. So, or like maybe in any other major city, and then you call the embassy and so on, and you either by email or on the online portal, depends how good the website is, you make an appointment for a submission of documents. So you submit the documents there in the embassy in your country, probably in the capital, I'm not sure, depends where you live. And if you don't have an embassy in your country, an Austrian embassy, you can look at other countries as well and ask if you're allowed to submit it there. So it could also be an option. And then you go there, and then you bring all the documents you need for a residence permit. There's a checklist, there's a website with all the documents. I will leave a link down below in the description box. And yeah, you just go through it all, and there it explains like the basic documents, and then it tells you additionally the documents you need for a first-time application, and additionally the documents you need for renewal. So when you're already in Austria, you studied for a year and you want to prolong it because you're continuing your studies, and then you just renew the residence permit in Austria itself. You don't have to leave anywhere. But in the case of first time you go to an embassy, you give them all the documents. If you don't have some documents is missing, then you will have to email it to them, because before they have the full package, they cannot send it to Austria. So, and another tip here is that when you have a document, what I encountered is if you have, it's like a lot of papers like clipped together for like a legalized translations, blah, 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 you have and you have to have copies of it, and each copy, you only can copy one page on one piece of paper. You can have a double-sided copy, basically. Like one paper is one page, it's one side. That's what caught me, and I had to pay a bit extra so they could scan it for me, like kind of redo the things I did. So you make sure it's like one paper for one page. You don't scan it as you have it, like double-sided, you scan it as one page. That's just something I encountered. You never know. And it's better to bring more than less. So maybe bring an extra copy, bring an extra empty form, which you might fill out. Maybe you have some mistakes there. So yeah, bring like a folder of documents with maybe some copies, some extra things, just in case. You never know. It's better to be safe than sorry. And then yeah, once they have the full package of your documents, they will send them to Austria. It might take a few days, of course, that it's post. And then once they arrive to Austria, the authorities, Magistrat, I think they usually take 1 month, more or less, a bit more, to look at them, to process them, and to say yes or no. And once they give the answer, they will let you know by email. And then also a few working days later, so they will send you an email saying, okay, we received a positive answer. Now can you please come in, and also you need a student visa. So then after you have a positive decision on your residence permit, that's when you get a visa. So you go to a visa center. The one I went to was called VFS Global, and there you apply for a visa D, a student visa. That is a one-time visa. You can use it for one-time entry to Austria. So you can enter one time and leave one time. And there they give it for you for 4 months. So to apply for the visa, you may need to bring a bit extra documents, like maybe some insurance or whatever. I think there was 3 documents I need to bring just in case, and also I need to give them my international or travel passport, because then they take the passport, because the visa center is allocated in different cities. They don't have to be in the capital. They can also be spread around. And I will send it to the main embassy, and then there they will stick your visa in the passport and then return it to you and give it to you. And you can pick up your passport either in the visa center directly, or you can also receive it in your hands by delivery, because that's what I had since I applied during the COVID times. They just delivered it straight to my house because the visa centers were just closed. You couldn't do that because of the regulations. So yeah, once you get the passport, and in the form you fill out for the visa D, there will be a little tiny question asking you, when are you planning to fly in Austria? Usually you're supposed to say kind of a day, within 2 weeks, because usually the visa takes around 2 weeks to be stuck in and then sent back to you. Because if you put it earlier than the visa actually arrives to you, it's kind of contradicts some things. And the lady there told me to put it a bit later than I thought of, just in case, because it was the COVID times and they had some days off and blah, blah, blah. So just to be sure. And then when I get my visa earlier than the expected time, I can only use it since the day I put it there in the form. So it's important. So I have my visa, but I cannot fly out because I have to wait another week since I put it that I'm flying in this date, so they give me the visa from this date. So just be aware of that question and kind of ask the people at the stand in the center directly, in the visa center directly, or maybe call somebody which date should you put, and they will help you out. Don't you worry about that. So then I get my passport, I wait, I pack my things, and then you go to Vienna. You fly in here, you settle down, you check into your dorm or your flat. Usually dorms are much easier to set up in the first year, so just go for a dorm in the first year, and then if you want to go to a flat or a shared flat, just do it in the second year. It's gonna ease the process a bit for you. Then you move in, then you have 3 days upon arrival to register your main residence now. So now that you're living here and you're studying here, assuming full-time, you have your main Hauptwohnsitz, the main residence is here in Vienna. So you need to go to an authority. So basically you go into a dorm, they give you a paper and you fill out your name, blah, 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 and they sign it. And in the paper you have your new address, including the room of the dorm. And with that paper you can go to it's called Meldezettel. You go to the authorities, to the residence paper is called Meldezettel in Austria. So you go to the authorities and they kind of register you with a new address and they give you an official confirmation. Or you can also do it by email, because I did it in COVID times, so it was possible to do it by email. I think now it's also possible to do it by email. It might take a few days, but you will get it. So yeah, and once you have the Meldezettel, and that's when you usually book the appointment for the residence permit, because now you have 4 months with your visa, which you can stay here, and you have 4 months to basically get a residence permit now. And you book a earliest appointment, because usually they're not the next day, you have to wait a week or so to get it, more or less. And then you bring the documents once again, you bring the copies of them, blah, blah, blah. And if you have all your documents ready in a folder and they ask you for them and you just give it to them one by one, and they usually have no questions, then once you bring, and the documents include basically the insurance, if it gets good happens, also the bank statement that you have this much money and it's enough for you to live for a year, and there is a formula how to calculate that, and I will also leave a link down below to that. It's on the same website as the checklist of documents, so yeah, it's all there. And then they ask you the bank statement, that you own it, that you can use the bank statement basically. It has to be under your name or under your parents' name, and they have to kind of confirm that you can use the money however you like. And then also in the first time, when you apply for the first time, they usually ask where the money came from, why do you have so much money? And that can be you have many grounds to kind of justify why you have the money. It could be a scholarship, could be your parents sponsoring, could be another sponsor, could be maybe you're self-employed and you're working and you make enough money to basically pay the yearly expenses. So yeah, there's 5 different or more different reasons where the money came from, and they might ask or might not ask, but usually when you're applying for the first time, they usually ask it. And also about the money aspect, there is a little link and the little paper in the checklist, and you download it and you kind of print and sign it. It's just a paper confirming that you have no loans in Austria, or if you do, like, state how much, please. So usually if you have no loans or no obligations, like in Austria, you print the paper out, you put 000 in the asking how much you pay, and then you sign it, and then you can also scan it as a copy. That's all you need, because people usually forget the document. It's such an easy thing to do, and it's so easy to forget, so I'm just reminding you. Then after the money aspect, they need where you live, and also the contract with your dorm, that you actually live there. And yeah, maybe a bit some more things, but that's the main things. So what happens if you get sick? Do you have where to live, and do you have the money to live here? And also, of course, they need the study confirmation that you're studying here, because that's the legal ground you're using. And they need the admission letter. So the offer letter, the letter offering you a spot at the program, is not the admission letter. So the offer you get once you get accepted, and they ask you, okay, do you want to take the place or not? That's the thing you return to the university, and you say, okay, I want to take the place, I sign it, and I return it to you. But then to get the admission letter, you need to go through the admission process. And the admission process is when the university has accepted you and you confirm that you want to take the place they're offering you. Then you send the university your documents, which are usually, the main things are your language proof, be it English or German, and also your secondary school university certificate if you're doing your bachelor's. If the master's, it's a bachelor's degree, of course, and it has to be translated and legalized, and you have to have the apostille on it. So yeah, just the high school university certificate. The language proof usually doesn't have to have anything, because it's already official and it's already in English or in German anyways. But the high school certificate, if it's not in English, you usually have to translate it to German or English, and you have to put the apostille on it, and then, yeah, it's a long process, because as far as I remember, my high school certificate was, you get an apostille on that, because an apostille is something you need to get the document out of your country and bring it to Europe. And then I translate the whole thing, and I also have to legalize the translation by getting another apostille. So it's like an apostille on top of an apostille. It took some time. That's why I took the high school exams earlier, to make it on time and not do it in the season, like in the summer when everybody is doing it, but a bit earlier in spring. So yeah, I worked my way very hard to be where I am. And yeah, so after that, after the university checks your documents, you can ask them to do it a bit faster if you really needed to, and they will send you an admission letter. And that admission letter is an official thing with that you go to the magistrate and to the embassies and all that. That's the official proof, that's the official ground. It's not the offer letter. No, so just don't get confused. And yeah, so with that, you go there, after that you should take your fingerprints. You also pay like a special payment, like a fee for them processing and giving you the card. I think it's 75 euros or something. So have that in cash or on card just in case, because there's a casa there directly. So yeah, and then you come back after paying the fee, and you get your beautiful card, the residence card. And then you have it for a year, and you can apply for renewal the earliest 3 months before it expires, and the latest is 1 day before it expires. And if you basically apply 1 day before it expires, you still can legally stay in Austria until they give you an answer, so don't worry about that. And when you prolong it, it's much easier usually, because the magistrat is not the main one you go to, but it's like they're spread out in different districts, because Vienna has like different districts, and like you go to the closest one, to the district you live in. For example, yeah, they can be anywhere in the district. You don't have to go to the one and only, like in the first time application. And then yeah, you go there, you bring them that you're continuing your studies, and you need a confirmation that you have finished completed a minimum of 16 ECTs that year. And that's super easy to do, because usually in a semester you would have 30 ECTs, and semester is half a year. So in 1 year you usually have 60 ECTs, and 16 ECTs compared to that, it's like nothing, it's very little. So you just need that, don't you worry about that. You just need to make sure that you have at least 16 ECTs, and you can download that proof on your university online platform in your kind of profile. That's super easy. You just click, and you download them as PDF and you print them. And you also bring them that you have the money for the year again. And then they might usually don't ask you about where it came from, because they already know the way you got it the first time, so they assume it's continuing like that. And yeah, you bring that you don't have any loans again. You bring depends. I think if you don't change your address, you don't have to bring anything additional, like any additional residence papers or like the dorm contract. They will just know, they just want to know how much you pay for rent. So it can be their contract or just a payment, a bank slip basically of your latest payment for rent. And that's pretty much it. So you go there, and then after you did all the things, so they will check the documents, they will take your fingerprints again, and then you will have to pay a fee again. And then you come home and they will tell you when to come for an appointment to pick it up with the card. It usually takes 3 to 4 weeks. 2 to 4 weeks, let's say, anywhere between that, because you can get it a bit earlier. And then you have to check your post box all the time, because you don't send it by email, they send it to you by post. And then once you get the paper, the mail from the authorities, with the date and the time you can pick it up, and you go there at a time. And don't be silly like me, please check the second paper that you have in the mail, because I didn't. And in that paper it said that I need to pay 20 euros to receive the card, and I didn't pay it. And I was so embarrassed when I came there and I didn't have the payment, because that's such a silly mistake. But they let me just pay it on the spot. Like, I went aside to sit down on a chair, I paid using my online banking, and I sent them the confirmation by email, and I was like, okay, it's all fine, but please next time check. And yeah, so when you're renewing, they're even calmer. They know you at this point, kind of from a legal point of view, and then it's usually a bit easier and usually also less stressful for you, because, well, you're used to that, you know how it goes. So yeah, so hope this video helped you. Please check everything on official websites. If you need to call the authorities, call them. There's nothing scary. You might have to wait on the waiting line and listen to their beautiful music. But that's it. So you can ask somebody to help you for money. You can do it yourself. Maybe you have a friend who did it, and you can kind of ask them some things. So yeah, so please check everything, do a checklist, do all the deadlines you need to write all the deadlines you need. And usually regarding the documents for universities, like the ones you need for university, it's just usually the language proof and the high school, secondary schooling certificate. And the universities might not need it when you first register for their kind of enrollment. They usually need it after you've passed the selection procedure. So for example, at the UBBE, you only need those 2 documents. If you got accepted and the admission process starts from the end of July, more or less, and it lasts until the 5th of September, if it's the normal period. And also there is the extended normal period that lasts until the 31st of October, in case you don't have a document yet, like one of them yet, and you can bring it and you just have to email the university. If something is taking way too long, the apostille, your secondary certificate or whatever, please just email the university and they will figure it out for you. They usually will do their best to find a way to help you out. They're people just like you that are trying to help you. They were students themselves some years ago. So yeah, hope I helped. Bye bye, and see you in the next video.